Well, the geopolitical military conflicts out in the Middle East have abruptly disrupted international shipping along the world's busiest sea route through the Suez Canal, turning the traffic towards South Africa's Cape Sea route and coast. How then can South Africa gainfully respond in the interest of international shipping? Well, for this discussion, we've roped in Unathi Sonti, the Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber, to give us more insight on this. Unathi, festive greetings to you and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess that's the big question, right? Is South Africa even in a position to gainfully respond to the situation where 90% of international trade faces challenges that could adversely impact energy as well as food prices and supply chain disruptions?
Citizens, greetings to you in studio and all the viewers. Indeed, South Africa is well positioned, number one, to respond very well into this crisis. South Africa can gain, a lot from this current crisis, not only in fact South Africa, but Africa as a whole. One of the key to that, you would note these vessels that would be coming, if they come, looking at the crisis, because the crisis is not yet, over, would then require certain services, as you have alluded, because the impact to this would impact the poor and the marginalized in this country, all the African countries, if we are not responding very well to this crisis by being able to supply much needed services. And part of those would be, your fuel, would be allowing for those vessels to be able to come into the ports and do, crew changes and also assist them with some repairs as well.
But Unathi, you say we are well positioned, but are we even in a good position to do this, looking at the current state of our ports, infrastructural challenges, amongst others, that are plaguing our own fleet, marine bunker fuel services, which you alluded to, which play a critical role in making, of course, the Cape Sea route attractive?
At this stage, I won't lie and say we would be able. I must also note the fact that the last report that I had seen from the ports, it was saying the South African ports have not received any new port calls. And obviously, you would understand why there won't be any new port calls. It's because what the international community understands, it's still the challenges that is being faced at our ports with the congestions, the delays, whilst there is a strategy to address that. But in terms of bunker fuels, we are not currently in that position because those bunker fuels would need to take place at the port, and of which the ports are the current ones that are facing all these challenges. And your best position would be offshore, off port limits. And this is where now we've got the biggest challenge currently at the one active bunker hub, which was the Algoa Bay, where SARS has detained, a number of vessels which were offering such services to vessels that were passing by. And in a case like this would be definitely a great opportunity to unlock that, together with unlocking maybe, Saldanha Bay as well as an assistant or a second hub to be able to attract and capture all that seagoing vessels that would be in distress.
And Unathi, I'm so glad you mentioned SARS, because how will the SARS moratorium impact all these efforts? As we know, it disrupts global trade flows, hinders growth of the maritime sector.
Look, the SARS debacle is one that, as a country, we really need to look at it. I must, put it on record that the operators that are involved, which their vessels were seized or were detained, if let me not say seized, were detained by SARS. They are currently in engagement with SARS. Others have gone, as we know, via the court route. But as the industry, we continue to engage, and we believe while SARS has now issued out a document that is out for comment, that talks to the amendment of the Customs Act of 1964 to put that into legislation. That matter would not be resolved tomorrow because this crisis is now. And this is where we believe if the country was really, taking serious the maritime matters, this would have been one of those, like even the media of this country, like right now, I did not see much talks about, when South Africa was going through a process of applying to be a candidate for the IMO, which is the International Maritime Organization Council. That was not because I think in the country we are not really, taking charge and appreciating the level of us being a true maritime nation. It is why we would have issues like this that started in September and there's still no resolution, a definite resolution around this matter.
Unathi, look, let's throw it forward. What then are the available opportunities for the much needed economic growth in this regard?
Look, one, if you would note that 98% of our trade is seaborne, and all of that goes via the ports.
Yeah.
So if we are to really develop and make sure that the growth of this country is aligned with the activities, the economic activities out there, it would making sure, one, our ports, they operate effectively and efficiently. Number two, we enable those activities. The bunkering, especially the offshore bunkering, is a global activity that is recognized. And it's an activity that, should the country begin to appreciate its fullness, a number of new entrances and businesses would be able now to participate. This also would talk to, speeding up the process by TNPA together with SAMSA, making sure that there are new licenses that are able now to come into play at Algobe when it goes back online.
And let's talk further on that, Nathi. I mean, let's talk about the potential benefits that are at stake here. Can we turn things around in time in terms of policy in order to capitalize on this opportunity?
The biggest challenge that we have in South Africa with regards to policy, it's because policy has to go through a number of processes. And those would include going via parliament and going for comments. And this is why we have not even fully appreciated, the issue that talks to offshore oil and gas exploration. Whilst our neighbors, in terms of making policies and making decisions, their turnaround time in making such decisions is quicker than us. So the issues around policy, it's one that becomes a major stumbling block in making sure that we really, get to appreciate, or we get to really see the benefits of some of these of these activities. Like I would tell you, it's been almost 12 months since we've been talking about the new bunker codes and STS codes, which have had to go through a process, and we are still waiting for that marine notice that would say this is how moving forward we would be able to for new operators and new licenses would be able to operate. And the reason we don't have that, it's because of all these delays with regards to the policy matters and the fact that, especially maritime matters, the country is currently now in a process of approving its Oceans Economy Master Plan. That conversation as well has been taking place since the advent of COVID. And we have not really seen it as well, in full.
Unathi, unfortunately, we're out of time. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your contributions. Unathi Sonti, the Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber.